welcome to my little space where heart and hook stitch up a place where we can together make a refuge safe for all our sake. Alright, check it out. I was super stoked to get an order for 4 of my vests, 3 of which are already made. One of them is a made-to-order listing. It's a vest. The vest pictured in the listing is already sold, so I switched the listing to made-to-order. And so I pulled out the 3 vests that were ready to go, that were purchased, and I grabbed more yarns to make one inspired by the one in the made-to-order listing. And just look how pretty this fringe is. I use all sorts of yarns, fancy materials, ribbon yarns, fuzzy yarns, metallic, and strips of like lightweight fabric from things like scarves or sheets. So I'll show you what each of these looked like back originally when I modeled them. At some point I started naming all of the unique clothing items I make after songs, and I was making all of these named after Björk songs. So this one is called Sun in My Mouth, which I think is kind of perfect because it has a lot of yellow. This one I believe I made just before I was starting to name vests. So I don't have a name for this one, but this one is a spider web vest patterned by Star Lily Creations. And last year, getting truly into the Halloween spirit, I also photographed it with my black cat. This one is called Bella Sinamar, which is a Björk song from, I think, way early in her career. This one is all this fancy coppery material that I happened to get secondhand. And here I am ready to go on this next one. These are not the same yarns I used on the original one in the listing. Here, I'll show you what that one looks like. So here's the original that I'm basing this next one off of. It was named Submarine after the Björk song, once again. And it's all in cottons or other natural materials for the body. Of course, there's all sorts of other materials in the fringe. But I'm basically going to try to recreate the look of it as close as I can without having the original yarns. So it's definitely going to still be a one-of-a-kind garment, but it will be sort of following the design of the original. So I'll try to be putting a similar color for each row as I go with what I have. As I make these, I typically use odds and ends of what I happen to have. Nothing is necessarily repurchasable, so that's why each one is unique. Sometimes, like this one was a particular yarn that I could buy more of, but yeah, most of them are made of sort of a hodgepodge of materials that I can't necessarily buy more of, that I buy, in bulk secondhand, or randomly discounted yarns that aren't necessarily going to continue to be available. So, fresh off the hook, as of yesterday morning, this is Nana Allen, as in Alan Turing. I already, at the time of I'm recording this, I've already posted this one in a reel on my social medias, and I did this cool sort of viney design that I've done on several of them. Across is the first time I've done it across the top, though, down each arm. I like that. So Alan Turing, who helped to end World War II, by breaking the Enigma code. So I'm getting ahead, and I'm probably going to just go ahead and finish this Nana before I start the vest that I have ready to work on, so that I'm just ready to go for next Wednesday, because I've already gotten this far on her. And she just needs the top part of her head, her breasts, and some sort of decoration on her. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff the arms, because I have the arms made here. So I'll start doing that now. So coming up this Saturday, which is the day after tomorrow, right now as I'm filming this, is the No King's Day protest. And I'm going with my family. And so I need to make a poster for myself to carry around. And I'm thinking of being weird and strapping one of my nanas to it. Maybe just weird enough to catch some glances, I don't know. With big bold letters, nanas against Trump and fascism, of course. I don't know, we'll see. And maybe some message on the other side too, so it's two-sided, you know. So we'll see how that goes. The city protest that I will be closest to will be Fresno, so I will include some pictures or videos if I can get any when I'm there in this video, because that would be good to share. Oh, everybody needs to stay. This video that I'm recording right now isn't going to go out before the next protest, but I just hope everybody stays peaceful across the country, that if we can mobilize huge protests across the country that resoundingly stay peaceful, that's what we want. Because anybody getting violent, anybody doing property damage, you're playing into what they want. They want to be able to show, look, the crazy riots of people who just want to do destruction. That's not our goal. That's not what we want to be doing. So let's not play into what they want, and let's not give them video clips that they're going to be able to show over and over again and pretend like that's all that's happening. Because even when a few people do that kind of thing, it's still by no stretch the majority. Well, as you can see, my mic died on me, but you get the gist of what I was saying. That is not the majority of people out there, the ones that are burning cars and whatnot. As I just saw a meme that just said something like, just because you see 1,000 videos of the same car burning doesn't mean there were 1,000 cars burning. So anyway, I'll just speed up this video since we don't know what I'm saying anyway, and you can watch me get a little bit more crocheting in. And here I've just decided to include some of my progress pictures. Here is my 31st Nana, representing 31 weeks since Trump was elected. This is Nana Allen, named after Alan Turing, a perfect hero to celebrate for Pride Month. He was responsible for deciphering the Nazi Enigma code and helped to bring an end to the war, World War II. At the time of editing this, I've already gone to the No Kings protest and been back. even though I haven't shown it yet at this point in the video. But as sort of a segue into the next topic I felt like sharing about, I thought I would tell you just a little bit. We went to the protest. It was wonderful. It was a great turnout, lots of friendly faces. Right at the end, we went into Five Guys, which is right there at the mall, for lunch. There was one small group of people at their own table, and they looked up. I met eyes, and I had a big smile. I smiled for them. They looked away, and they just, no smile, no friendliness whatsoever. We were clearly just at the protest because we had our signs, we had our sun hats on, and our flags and our beads and all the flashy fun stuff. And I said something like, right when we walked in and we met eyes, I said something like, oh, well, this is a good time to come in and get lunch, because it hadn't been rushed yet for lunchtime. And they just looked away, and they were not smiling at all in response. So I was like, okay, I don't think they're on our side, and that's okay. So we got our food, sat down, and then later when they finished their food and they got up and left, I saw one of them had a shirt that said, oh gosh, I don't remember now. It had some sort of Christian message on it, like God first or something like that, with a cross on the sleeve. And that just got me to thinking a little bit about my experience growing up as a Christian, and then detransitioning, deconverting, and realizing I wasn't a Christian anymore, and then realizing I was an atheist. And I thought I would share a little bit of the backlash that I've gotten from going against my religion at this point. So just a bit about how into it I was back in the day when I was in junior high and high school. I was very involved in the youth groups, went to Christian teen conventions with my youth groups. I remember even attending multiple seminars. One in particular that I remember was all about how to talk to your friends who think they're gay, because they had all the evidences and all the testimonials of people who thought they were gay, but basically, prayed the gay away. So they had me fully convinced that this was something that was wrong with you, that you could change about yourself. And it was my duty, if I cared about my friends at all, to at least let them know that I was there to help facilitate if they wanted to change. Not that I was going to not be friends with them if they wouldn't change. I had just taken it as my solemn duty to care for my friends and love them the way that I needed to by sharing this information with them. I had one friend in particular who I was speaking to, and I tried to make it brief. I thought, you know what, after this conference I went to, the seminar, I will just tell him just real briefly, real quickly what I learned, and just tell him that I'm open to helping him find the people that could help him if he wanted to. And aside from that, I would never bring it up again, but we could still be friends, and I cared for him regardless. And I thought that was coming from a place of love. I suppose it was. I was fully indoctrinated. But, I don't know what kind of hurt that caused him. I'm sure it didn't feel great to be hearing that from your friend. And so looking back now as an adult, I'm horrified by that history. And I did actually reach out to him some years ago and told him I'm not Christian anymore. Fully apologized as best I could for thinking I was acting like a friend when I really wasn't. And telling him that I'd like to crochet him something if there's anything he'd like. And he said, sure, I could make his dog. So I crocheted a little replica plush of his dog. And so yeah, I don't ever want to be that person again. I mean, I give myself some grace. I was a young teenager, and my mind was being filled with crap. The first best thing that happened to me in terms of helping me to start deconstructing some of the stuff that had been implanted into my brain from those youth group times was the fact that I went to a public liberal college. So very quickly, I let go of all of the anti-gay stuff. I let go of the anti-evolution stuff. So once I kind of went through college, I started, if I were to introduce myself to somebody and if I were to say that, yes, I'm a Christian, I always gave the caveat that I do believe in evolution. I'm not anti-gay, so on and so forth. I'm a Democrat. And I was that kind of Christian for several years. And I know I already talked about a little bit my deconversion process in a previous chapter, but I'll just mention it again. When I was at the right point in questioning everything, why I actually believed what I believed, there was sort of a turning point for me when I came across this video called God's Checklist 2.0. It's on YouTube by a page called Theoretical Bullshit. That video I will link to in the description box, but also the second video that I like to pair with it whenever I recommend that one it's called And What If You're Wrong? Or And What If I'm Wrong? And I think he answers that so eloquently. And both videos, for me, summarize basically what the point that I got to, that there was no turning back from. I couldn't make any arguments against the points he was making in those videos. And I ended up writing a letter, like 3 pages long, typed up, printed out, and I gave it to the closest people to me at the time, my parents and other close relatives. And I heard back from my parents right away. They wanted me to call. And so we called and had a talk. And basically, they told me they were proud of me, that it sounded like I was doing this for reasons that are Christ-like in their opinion. And, but then I had some not so great response from somebody else. So I had one person who couldn't talk about it for about 3 months. And then I had another person who basically didn't seem like she wanted to be in my life anymore. But I did have a cousin who's religious herself, and she was totally like, I love you no matter what. I hear you and I love you no matter what. So I've had a variety of responses to that. One family member was like, how could you even doubt God's existence? Like, I've gone through struggles and strife and trials, but I've never questioned God. And I'm just like, what? I mean, who hasn't, right? Can you really be an honest person and say that you've been a Christian your whole life and you've never once doubted? I don't know. That did seem disingenuous to me. And raising kids, I've talked to my kids about kind of the basic idea of what Christianity is and what the beliefs are that a lot of their family members have, just so that they know. And, they know that if they're curious about learning any of it, they can. But my daughter, who full on from the time she was really young was like, yeah, there's no God. She just accepted that as that makes sense. And it seemed silly, any of the Bible stories that for a little bit, I was teaching her some of the basic Bible stories that Christians believe, but like from their perspective, like from the perspective of the way they would have been taught to me. And all the while having a little discussion with her, like, do you think this is real? Does this sound like a real true thing that happened, or does this sound like a fairy tale? And she would just, yeah, it sounds like a fairy tale. Yeah, it sounds like make believe. It sounds like another fairy story. So anyway, at one point in elementary school, I want to say she was in like first or second grade. I don't remember exactly, but she was at lunch and there was a little boy next to her who was telling her about Jesus and asked her if she believed in Jesus. And she said, no. And the boy shoved her and said, you have to believe in Jesus or you go to hell. And that was an incident that we reported to the office. You know, that was like the first case of bullying that she had ever had. And yeah, I was like, wow, okay, so that does exist that blatantly at that young of an age. I'm pretty certain I never acted like that as a young kid, but obviously my story from how I was in high school to my gay friend was kind of similar. And then on this topic, I couldn't help but recall the time that it was another family gathering and it was another close family member. This was after I had deconverted. I'm fully recognizing that I don't believe any of it. I'm an atheist full on, but I don't go around and flaunt it and I don't bring it up around my religious family members. But there was a discussion around the dinner table at one point where I had mentioned something about I can't ever have kids again. Basically, I don't remember what the topic was, but somebody had said something about, um, you know, whether somebody is going to have more kids or not. And I was like, yeah, except I can't because, referencing the fact that I've had a hysterectomy. And one of the family members said, well, you still could. You might. And I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't remember that I've had a hysterectomy. So I said, well, I actually remember I actually don't have the baby making organ anymore. And he was like, no, God works in mysterious ways. You never know. He made, was it Sarah? Some Bible character get pregnant well beyond, the years that she should have been fertile. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna go that route. Anyway, I was flabbergasted, and some of the other people who identify as Christians at the table, I think, were flabbergasted too. Like, okay, we're gonna go that far. So that was kind of the handful of stories that I felt like sharing. For the most part, I have continued to feel loved and accepted by the vast majority of my close loved ones. I've only really lost a relationship with one. But yeah, I do feel like even the ones who are maybe offended or maybe take it personally that I deconverted, even those still love me, and nobody's tried to lecture me about it. Oh, hi there. Did you go to a protest today? I'm curious to hear in the comments if anybody watching my video went to their local No Kings protest. I'm back and I'm pretty tired. I am very much not, what's the word? An extrovert. I'm way more of an introvert. So for me, being in social settings where I see a lot of people and chat with a lot of people, oh, I can do it and I enjoy it, but it leaves me exhausted. So I'm definitely going to be chilling the rest of the day, making sure I take care of my recharging, getting some crochet done. I have a vest to finish. Oh, I showed you the yarns for that, but I didn't show any of the progress yet. So here's what I have so far of that. Don't want to unravel that while I pick it up. Let's see. This is the front, the right side. I'm looking forward to finishing this, getting the fringe on, and photographing that maybe this weekend, maybe tomorrow morning. We'll see. And you'll see I'm crocheting with this rainbowy yarn right here. I just went ahead, I was partially into making a little heart here. And this is what I did at today's protest. After starting at the rally spot and then marching with the group of people down the road, around the block a little bit, we stopped, we meaning me and my family, we went together. We stopped at a shady spot just off of the sidewalk and kind of just parked ourselves there. And I set up my sign leaning up against my leg. And by the way, here's my sign. Nana's against Trump and fascism, of course. And I stitched on Nana Alexandria. She was named after AOC. I thought she would be a good one. Plus, I don't know. I like her colors. I like all of them, of course, but I had to pick one, and I thought AOC is pretty popular right now. So that's the front of my sign. This is the back. I made it yesterday. And you can see I actually did sew her on. I just passed a couple strands of crochet thread through the back and through the butt area and tied them here and here. It was easy to punch holes in the poster board with my yarn needle. But I like this. The horrors persist, but so do I. So yeah, I just had my board propped up against my leg and I was just crocheting away. I had my little bag with my skein of yarn in it hanging off of my fanny pack. And I made as many of these. Somebody gave me this. Sorry if it's hitting my mic. Somebody gave me this bead necklace. I made as many of these hearts as I could, and I just gave them away to people that passed by. I tried to make sure I got one to kids whenever I saw kids coming by, if I had one ready. I don't know how many I made, but I started with a full skein, and it's gone pretty slack now, so maybe about half a skein's worth of hearts passed out today. It felt good. It was fun. So I highly recommend it, even if you're an introvert like me who ends up with a headache after an event like that. Just take care of your own self-care afterwards. Go do the thing and then go take care of yourself again afterwards, because the more friendly people that are out there, the better, to show the world that they should listen to us, they should care. So props to everyone that showed up today in Fresno, California. It was peaceful. There were cops that were taking, like, I'm pretty sure they were the same few cops taking laps around the block and over again. And we were smiling and waving. Most of them weren't even looking or smiling back, but it stayed peaceful. There were lots of cars honking, which was really nice to see because this is a red area. Even though California is blue, I do live in a very red area of the state. So it felt good. It felt like we have a lot of allies in our town. So yeah. This is the yarn that I used to make hearts to pass out. I didn't even realize that it is 100% virgin wool. I just figured it was very cheap acrylic yarn. I got it secondhand. Here we go. I finished the body of this vest, aside from obviously all the loose, all the ends that need to be woven in. But this is the right side. However, this was meant to be a size medium/large, and it really is more of a size small/medium. So, and I kind of knew that after I got a couple rows past the armholes. Even though it's the same number of stitches, this is done with sort of a thinner type cotton yarn, which I remembered using before for this one that I'm imitating. However, I think for some of these that I've doubled up, I think I tripled or quadrupled up. So even with the same hook and the same stitches, it still ended up smaller. So I'm going to remake it. I think I have more of all of these yarns that I used in this, probably enough to use all of these exactly the same, but make it bigger by adding an extra thin strand to some of these skinnier strands. Some of these, like this one and this one and this yarn and this yarn and this yarn, are all a little thicker, and it works to combine the thinner and thicker yarns. But I'm going to thicken up the thinnest parts of this and crochet just a tad bit looser with the same hook, and watch, it'll be a more of a medium/large. This is just what happens sometimes with crochet, and that's okay, you know? So oh well, I'm gonna end up with an extra vest that will be available in a smaller size. So there you have it. I think it's gorgeous. It has very much a similar look to the original that it's based on, but of course it's its own unique vest. However, it will be possibly very, very much more close to the next one I make. However, I probably will have slight variation in color when I add an extra strand into some of these, and we'll see how that goes. There you have it. I finished the second vest. This one on top, I've laid out on top for you to see that this one is the small/medium. This one will definitely fit more like a medium/large. And they're very similar, although not exactly the same, as you could probably already tell. Look at this green is different. Now the green on the original that I was basing both of these off of had a green for these sections, that for these rows, that was a little bit brighter than this one. And I thought this was close enough, and I used that till I ran out, but I didn't have enough for this row here. So I had this other green that was brighter than the original, and I added along with it a darker green thread. So, you know, I make do, and I like the uniqueness that I end up with each of my makes. Now the next step, and I'm going to finish both of these together at the same time because it just saves time when I do batch making like this. The next step is stitching in, weaving in all these ends with my yarn needle. See on the back sides, what a mess, right? So I have to weave in these ends so that they don't pop out and they're nicely put away, which I have to do it very, very carefully on these because these are so lacy and open. So I really want to hide those yarn ends in the stitches themselves. And then I'll show you when I'm done with that. Oh my goodness, these are so gorgeous to me. I had to try them both on to get the placement of the lacing correct on both of them. They are both at the same number of spaces up from the bottom corner. And if anybody is making these patterns, this is how I like to do it. I like to lace it up through 6 spots, but with a spot in between each spot where it goes through the with lacing. So here's, it's laced through here, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 3, skip 1, 4, 5, and 6. That's how I like to do it. And this is a chain that I do for the tie of 250 chains. I do this with like an H hook usually, though, I think, instead of a J hook. Usually I like to use J hooks for the body of the vest. But oh my gosh, they're both so pretty. And I don't know which I like better, the brighter green here or this more, still kind of bright, but more muted green. So next step is to do all the fringe. I've already pulled out these. I looked back at my original and I still have these same fabrics that I used in the original for fringe. So there's this one, 2 different plaids that are very similar. Very, very similar. And then this dark, dark blue that has like these polka dots at the bottom. So I will set these aside for now. I will grab a bunch of yarns as well, and I'll determine, I'm not going to try to put the fringe in all the same places. I'll just cut some strips, get some yarns, and I'll figure out how I want to arrange the fringe on these. And I will be doing probably the same for both of them. So I'll see how many strips I can get out of each of those, how many I want to fit on here versus how many spots I want to put yarns in, and go from there. So basically the fringe will be the same on both of these as well. So now it's time to dive into my fancy, fuzzy, glittery, sparkly, ribbony type yarns. Oh yes, and one more thing. Here are the backs. Here's what they look like on the back before adding fringe. You know, without fringe, these are absolutely one of a kind, unique, gorgeous works of art, if I may say so myself. Of course, this pattern is not my own. The original pattern, I haven't said so far in this video, the original pattern is from one by Forever Wandering. She has a Forest Fay vest pattern that it doesn't have this point at the bottom and it doesn't expand up at the top to make a collar. But those are alterations to the pattern that Star Lily explains how she likes to do in her Patreon. So, and it's also how she does a lot of her vests. So if you buy any of Star Lily's patterns for other vests like this, they pretty much function the same way how she does these rows once it starts coming down in a point. And she also gives tips on how she likes to do her fringe, which I've found very useful in going for this look. So check out those 2 ladies, Forever Wandering and Star Lily Creations. I'll put links to the pattern and to Star Lily's Patreon in the description box below. All right, here we have all of the fabric part of the fringe attached on both vests. As you can see, I started off with this dark blue in the center, and then I mirrored both sides going out, and I went in every other hole. So now in these ones that I left behind, I will be attaching these yarns. This one's like a really big wide ribbon yarn, which will kind of function like a fabric. And these I'll pair together in one hole. These will go in one, these will go together, 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 together. This one will be by itself. And I will also mirror them from the center on outward on both of these. And I have my tape measure here because I'm measuring these at 32 inches. And as you can see, when I attach them, I have them overlap by a few inches so that they hang at, each strand hangs at 2 lengths. So it helps the whole thing seem a little more fairy, fluttery, light and airy, feathery. So yeah, it's going to be really pretty when I get all of these added in. Whoa, I did it, y'all. I always think these are so magical. Whenever I finish them, I'm always flabbergasted by how gorgeous they look. So here now we've got all the yarns in the spots between the strips of fabric. And look, I have my overhead fan on right now, so they're moving around. It's alive. So yeah, tomorrow morning I will get out and photograph maybe just one of them, because they each deserve their own photo shoot separately, I think, with their own separate outfit. They're both unique in my opinion, so they deserve their own unique treatment photo shoot wise. Not in my opinion, they are obviously unique. The biggest obvious difference is the brighter green here. They are different in other more subtle ways. Like here, this is a single strand. Here, I've got it combined with a thinner light blue strand. And then here, I've got these two light blue strands with one white strand, whereas here I have two light blue strands only. So they are definitely unique, even though they have a very similar look. And I get to photo shoot them tomorrow and the next day. Photo shoot them? Can I make that a verb? I don't know. Oh my goodness, I'm just go, go, go. So I got two orders or an order for 2 dolls. This will be the skin and this will be the hair. And get this, she told me she'd like the colors and materials to be girly, pinks and girly kind of feel. Editing Aileen here, the thing I forgot to mention is that my customer said I have total artistic freedom to come up with the design. So I love it when a customer does that. I feel like I can make something that the customer wouldn't even think to ask for. So I just gathered this all up as inspiration. I'm sure there's no way I'm going to use all of it, but check this out. I got this one secondhand. It had somebody's little bit of crochet attached to it, so I'll have to undo that. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to leave these out for inspiration as I design where I'm going to put colors and which materials and stuff. They're 2 of my basic doll designs, so I'm not going to do anything different with the pattern. I'm just going to figure out how I want to design where I place the type of yarn I'm using and colors and where I want to put everything. So we have a variety of materials here. These are acrylic. This is a polyester blend. I think these are acrylic. These are cotton. This is like cotton and like silk and something fancy, but like look how much I have of it. Not that much. So it could be combined with something else. These are, I think, mohair, kind of fancy. And then these, oh, this is acrylic, I think, acrylic. And then this one is, it's a very pale purple. I was forgetting. I thought I had a pink still with sequins, but I guess I don't. But this very pale purple has sequins, and this is a blend of something, and it does have mohair. So, pinks, purples, girly stuff. Here we go. Okay, with much back and forth and moving things around, I think I've settled on it. This will be for 1 doll. I put 2 of these here because I'm going to double up this strand. Actually, that's so thin. I might triple or quadruple that. That's okay because I have all of these. And then this will be for the other doll. Same skin and hair for each. So for this one, I'm going to combine a strand of this with a strand of this light purple with the sequins. Yeah, I think that'll look nice. They'll both each have their own special unique quality. I think this one is going to have long sleeves and leggings on under the dress. This one's going to have bare arms and bare legs. You'll have to stay tuned until next chapter to see how these dolls work up. So this morning I photographed this one larger vest. This one's supposed to fit medium to large, so it's a little bit oversized on me, as you can see, but it's still awesome to wear. It still doesn't drag too long in the back fringe or anything. And I wanted to photograph this one first because this is the one I'm shipping to my customer, and I can get my package ready to go tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'll photograph the other, and you'll have to wait until next week's chapter to see that one. Crochet hooks and colors bright, crafting wonders day and night. Join the fun, come see it through. Subscribe and I'll create for you. If you don't already follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I recommend hopping over there and giving me a follow. On Instagram, I'm aileensoprano for my crochet. I also have a food page, which is aileen_cuisine. I don't post there all that much, but on my crochet page and on my personal Facebook for Aileen Robinson, but I also still have Lean Green Bean, which is like my Etsy shop name. On all of those, in my stories every single day, I post behind the scenes of what I'm working on. So some like the pictures that I've shown you of in progress, items being made. I post those in my stories every day so that people can see what I'm working on. So that also if you've ordered something from me, you can watch the progress in almost real time of your item being made.